Hello, hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. I am here today on this 4th of July to talk not of independence, but rather of interdependence. And I am joined today by my favorite person on this entire planet. Hi, Billie.
Hi.
I love that I look at you and just my whole body smiles. Like it's just so amazing.
It's so nice to be back here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's really fun, right? We got a
Yeah.
lot to talk about. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So while it seems strange that someone might not know who you are, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the good people?
Yes, of course. So my name is Billie Albina. I use she, her pronouns. I am your wonderful butch wife, and
Yes.
I'm so happy to be your wife.
Yay.
And I am currently enrolled to become a social worker at the University of Toronto School of Social Work. So I just retired from 13 years as a librarian, and I'm in this transition, and it's so exciting. It's so, so exciting. And I think it's like really exemplary of our interdependence because I never
Mm,
thought I would ever be able to do this. And
yeah.
here I am, finally able to do it.
It's so exciting. And I haven't announced on the show that we are moving, but
We
what
are.
what better time, right?
I
What
know.
better time to announce we are moving for the next 2 years. We'll see what life brings to Toronto, Canada.
That's right.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's fun to announce that on like Independence Day we're going to Canada.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But going back to
Yeah.
the Commonwealth, huh?
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
That's
Got to
right.
practice my like queen wave.
I mean, do you really need to practice? I feel like you're pretty good at
I
it.
am I am a lotus queen. I am a queen.
That's Billy's Buddhist name.
Yeah. Yeah,
Means Lotus Queen.
it does. My Buddhist name is Pema Wangmo, which means lotus queen. I'm quite
Yeah,
happy with that.
it's a good one. It's a good one. And you were a drag king for many years, so I
Oh
feel
my
like you
goodness, for so long.
so long. You've got like all the royalty just covered.
That's right. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Back in my early 20s, I was a little drag king. Oh my goodness. It feels
You
like ages
cutie.
ago.
I mean, it was, but also
Here
I
we
called
are.
our insurance today to find out if like progressive glasses were covered, and the guy like legit laughed at me. He's like, are the letters too small? And I was like, you know what, they are.
And well, and they keep getting smaller every year.
Every year.
Every
What's up
year.
with that? Can
I
someone
don't know.
explain that? Why do the letters, who is in charge of font size for the entire planet? And because I'd like to have a word with them. I'd like to have a word, and that word is stop. Just stop it. Stop making it smaller. You know what I mean? You know
So
what
are
I
they
mean.
so are they covered? They're not covered.
No, they're covered,
Oh,
which is
that's
really
exciting. That is
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah. So let's hurry up and get me some
All
new
right.
glasses.
Great.
Let's go
Yeah.
Monday.
Okay.
All right,
Speaking of
y'all.
interdependence.
Right. But there is a fine line. Check this segue out between interdependence and codependence. And I
Yeah.
think that would be a really fun and, of course, important thing for us to discuss and to talk about here on Feminist Wellness. What do you think?
I think that's why we're here today.
Wow, that's really cosmic and deep. That is why we're here today. Yeah. So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first? Taking a
Um,
stab at that delineation.
Between interdependence and codependence.
Yeah.
I'll take a stab at it. I
Ooh, go
mean,
forth.
codependence, as talk about, is that emotional outsourcing, right? Where like my happiness, my feelings are really dependent on another person, right? I'm looking to another person for for my sense of self-worth, for my sense of belonging, attachment. I'm looking outward, really. I'm not knowing what I want, what I need, and I'm really focused on uh, the other,
Right.
right? And it's that relationship with the other where I lose my sense of self,
Mm, yeah.
right? Whereas interdependence, and we've talked about this, that you know yourself so well and you trust yourself so deeply that you can rely on another person,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. That you
Yeah.
have that trust of yourself so deeply that you can trust another person to show up, to be there, to help,
Yeah.
and to tell you their limits. We talk about like, you know, I love your no because I can then trust your yes, right?
Yeah. That's huge.
Or is it the other way around? I trust your right, yes, so I know your no. I I don't know.
I mean, it's both. I mean, I
Right.
think it's
Yeah.
definitely both, right? Yeah, just trusting that someone's in honest relationship, right? Not just
Hmm.
right relationship. So if anyone's going to define that, my Buddhist, it's you. I've actually been meaning to do a show about right relationship for so long. Maybe we can like tease the concept here. But
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I think what's really important, so we're going to put a little pin in that,
Hmm.
like trusting yourself enough to trust someone else, meaning like let's play that out. Why would you not go to there from a codependent mindset? Like why wouldn't you trust someone else?
Mm.
Does that make English?
I
Like
think
why is
so.
the inverse true? I think what I heard and what you said sort of pointed towards it, right? When we, from our codependent thinking, we have the habit of losing ourselves in other,
Right.
right? And all of a sudden, like, sure, I like death metal if you do. Sure, I love camping if you do. Sure, I love being a quiet person because you do, right? Like, you like that, right? We shapeshift, we chameleon, we become someone else in
Right.
like subtle or not subtle ways,
Hmm.
right? We've talked about how we've both done that in the past,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so when we trust ourselves to stay true to ourselves, it from the first thing that comes to mind, I'm sure we can come up with 75 things, is like, I'm not going to lose myself in you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like, I'm going to say no, and I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say, hey, that hurt my feelings, or hey, I'm disappointed. Hey, right? And I trust me. Okay, that's kind of the other part of it, right? Like, one of the big barriers, sorry, I'm getting excited. You know
No,
how
I
I
like
do
it.
when I talk this
Uh-huh.
stuff,
No, I
but
love
like,
it.
one of the barriers to setting boundaries is reneging, right? It's like,
Mm.
oh, okay, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We like get a
Hmm.
little sympathetic slam into dorsal, and then it's fine. It's fine. No, no, no. I didn't mean that. You can wear muddy shoes on my white couch. Yeah, walk on the couch. Like that's fine. It's
And
fine.
walk
Don't
all
worry.
over me in the
Yeah, sure.
process.
In the process. Right. And so when we trust ourselves, we can trust someone else because we know, trust, believe, and have experience that we will set boundaries and we will keep them,
Mm-hmm.
right? We will say, no, thank you. No, no, we're not doing that. Right. And a boundary, we've talked about this here before, but not in a long time. A boundary is when you say your limits, like what you are available for and what you aren't. And what turns it into a boundary from a request is a consequence.
Right.
Right. So if you wear your muddy shoes on my couch, I'm going to ask you to leave my house and to pay the cleaning bill. Right. It's such a ridiculous example, but not really.
No, I think
No.
I mean, that's how you start to know your boundaries, right? By tapping into like what is an obvious boundary.
Ooh. Yeah, that's such a good mechanism, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so like what is like, if you have trouble, I had the longest time understanding my boundaries because I was one of those people that was very much like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. It's totally okay. It's totally cool.
Right.
But then when I started to get quiet and I started to understand my boundaries, and there were just big ones. There were really big ones. Like, please take your shoes off when you come into my house. Like
Yeah.
I like that. Please do that. And
Yeah.
what's the consequence? You don't get to come into my house.
Yeah.
You know? So it's
Yeah.
starting with like some of those big ones where you're able to then hone into the finer ones.
Yeah. I like that. And maybe like, what does it sound true to your experience to say to hone in on the like less threatening ones? Like the
Mm.
safer ones?
Hmm.
Because like that's a sort of like established norm across the planet. Like the world is gross. I don't like to mop. Take your shoes off.
Yeah.
Right? Like it can be a cultural thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like feeling into what it felt like to stand up for myself, right? So if it's
Right.
something as big as like, hey, please take your shoes off, or please wear a mask when you come into my house, or, like how does that feel when I stand up for myself in that way? And then in
Mm,
other situations where I'm able to, tap into those more nuanced boundaries, I can feel that same sensation and understand that that is a boundary for me. When something is either I need to state that it's a boundary or I need to recognize that it's a boundary, I can feel that in
right.
my body.
Right. Where do you feel it in your body?
I feel it in my gut and my chest,
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's,
What is
and
it?
and what does it feel like?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels, it feels like there's a nervousness there because I still struggle a little bit with standing up for like what I need and what I want. So there's like a little fluttery energy, but there's this warmth and this radiation that I feel
Mm.
because it's like I'm feeling true to myself, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. And when I'm being violated, I feel it in my neck. Like I
Yeah.
get like really tense and yeah,
Yeah. Like a
yeah,
constriction.
yeah. Constriction. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like so mammalian to like
Mm-hmm.
shut those big centers down. We could
Mm-hmm.
also go into like a little more the witchy woo, which is one of our favorite places to play, but like the throat chakra,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is it neck or throat?
Throat.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. I think this is an amazing segue. So, one of the things we do that is so helpful for me is we praise the ever loving crap out of each other
Oh my
for
goodness.
setting
Yes.
boundaries and limits.
Yeah.
Would you tell the good people about parades?
Oh. um, sometimes when one of us, does something that like, maybe we want to get a little boost for, or, we do something that we're a little proud of, but we want a little encouragement or we want a little
Yeah.
recognition,
Yeah.
we will ask for a parade.
Yeah.
We'll be like, hey, I did this thing. I did all the dishes, or, I made this really beautiful big meal, or like, hey, I called all these people today and got all these things done for us.
Yeah. Or
Can I
set a
have
boundary or
or
said no to each other.
that's right. Or like, hey, not today,
Right.
not right now.
Right.
Can I have a parade for that? And so then we, you know, and we're just able to like kind of celebrate, either an accomplishment or a boundary, and it's really kind of fun.
It's
And
the best.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love when you set a boundary with me. I love when you tell
Mhm.
me no.
It feels good to be able to say no, and that's been the real big difference,
Yeah.
right? From previous relationships, I never really felt like I could say no. Some of that I'm going to say was on me. Some of that was definitely on me. But, it was also the folks who I was with. I didn't feel safe to say no.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a place that I could say no. And so, coupled with my codependent thinking, I wouldn't say no and I would just, get walked all over and stayed in the job I didn't want to be in for way too long.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We both rocked out, if I may be so bold, and please. But we both rocked out the self-abandonment cycle pretty
Oh yeah.
hard.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah. For me, and I'll let you obviously speak for you, it didn't feel, well, you said this, right? You said it didn't feel safe to say
Hmm.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd get so like negated and shut down and scolded and told I was the problem. Like it would get so gaslighting kind of turned around on me that
Hmm.
like after a while, it just wasn't worth having an opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm. Yeah. I was really numbing out,
Right.
like it
Yeah.
wasn't even about, I mean, I was numbing out and going with the flow too much. So for
Yeah.
me, it wasn't necessarily like negation or shutting down. It was really numbing out and
Yeah.
avoiding and people pleasing, right?
Yeah. There's
So,
such an in like the difference because we're both fire signs. You're a Sag, I'm a Leo, but
woohoo, power couple.
and we both have a Taurus moon, so
Oh, watch out.
watch out.
I don't know what that means. We're going to be stubborn and get things done together.
Yes, we are, William.
Right.
Yes, we are. Like, I'm the eldest immigrant daughter, and you are the youngest of four daughters.
Uh-huh.
And it's just so interesting how yeah, yeah. We just, that birth order stuff, like, it's real, right?
It is real. I've always been attracted to the oldest daughter. I
I
don't know
will
what
throw
that.
my hair for all eldest daughters. I think it's just the yin and yang of it, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the balance
Hmm.
with you, youngest of four.
Would you say it's the interdependence?
I actually would say that it's the interdependence. I was with one of my best friends, Marie. I'll give Marie a shout out, though I know she doesn't listen to the show. Hello, Marie. I love you. And she kept doing vocal fry like hard all
Oh,
weekend.
wow.
Man, it gets in your head. It
Wow.
gets in your head. It's hard to escape, you know?
Really?
Hi.
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 What was that? What's that? What's that? Like you put chips in it when you eat it?
Dab.
Right, right.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Dip, dip.
Dab. Cutie.
Speaking of seeing your friend Marie this weekend, we're in two different locations. This is
Oh, we
different.
are.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
we are.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here in southwestern Pennsylvania. I've been taking care of my parents. I miss you. I've been away from you for
I
like a
know.
week.
I
But it's
know.
also why it looks like Laura Ashley exploded behind me because like literally this entire house, it was built in 1982 and like every surface is like floral wallpaper. But I love my
And she's
parents and sorry, go ahead.
no, I
Yeah.
was gonna say she's not over exaggerating. Like it's like flowers on flowers on flowers on flowers. Like even in here, the wallpaper, but then look at the light fixture, it's like a different flower pattern.
Oh
Kind of
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, my mom loves her florals, and I'm just happy to be here. I have two oldest sisters who take care of my parents, Elisa and Heather. They're friends of the show, so I want to
Yay.
give them
We
a
love
shout out.
them. Yay.
And I'm just so grateful for, the caregiving work they do. That work is so important and so valued and
Yeah.
so unseen in this culture.
Yes.
And I'm just so grateful for them. So I'm glad I can be
Yeah.
here for a little bit of time and help relieve them a little bit. And it's
Yeah.
just a pleasure always to come to Pennsylvania and spend some time with my parents. But where are you, my love?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey. I'm in Brooklyn, New York City, where they paint murals of Biggie. Every time I say Brooklyn, my brain starts singing that. But it also frequently goes, Shakira, Shakira. So, oh, ADHD. It's fun. I like my jukebox.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
mine just goes like boots with the fur. Like that's just that's
you're a millennial when.
that song turned 20 years old this year.
Sweet cheese Louise.
I know. I can't
Okay, and
believe
like
it.
Kurt Loder is like 900 years old.
Oh man.
Kurt Loder, God. Yo, MTV
Yeah.
Raps. Good times.
Oh.
Good times. Yeah. All right. So wait, where were we? The difference between codependent. I think this is a really
Hmm.
important point. I'm gonna like drag us
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Drag us back.
The difference, how can you tell if you're in codependent thinking, living, experiencing versus interdependent? So we talked about how interdependent has that ebb and flow, right?
Yeah.
And can I share the word we made up? Or
Oh,
like
yeah,
you
of
made
course.
up ones? All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always talk about how interdependence, we do a lot of consenting. Like we could get a lot of consent around here. It's very important.
Hmm.
Mutuality and reciprocity are the two sort of bedrock foundational things in interdependence, right? I am an autonomous animal. You are an autonomous animal. And we come together in mutual aid, which is not pity. It's not rescuing. It's not saving. It's not a hierarchical concept. Mutuality is inherently flat, right? It is an even, equal. You are just as valid, valuable, capable, awesome as I am. And we meet each other when our hands are full, right?
Right.
Metaphorically or
Yeah.
physically. And then reciprocity is the divine balance. It's not the tit for tat that is part and parcel of codependent thinking, right? If I had a nickel for every time I've heard a client say, well, with all I've done for him, I
Mm.
can't believe right? And I've said it
Hmm.
myself. I've said it
Yeah.
with my ex, I said it a million times, right?
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah.
was not getting reciprocity. I was getting taken advantage of.
Hmm.
And Interdependence is when you show up to the best of your ability, capacity, and capability. And you were talking about these two concepts one day and said, yeah, it's like mutuality. And it's like my favorite, not a word now.
But it is a word. It's our
It is a
word.
word. We're
Yeah.
very postmodern, so we invent words.
Yeah, mutuality. Yeah.
Mutuality. I think it's like really great because it just really sums up what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does mutuality look like for you, like on the daily? How do you know we're so deep in it?
Mm. I was talking about this a little bit with my sister. Like, I love doing the dishes. Like, and I'm just gonna say, I love doing the dishes for you.
Hmm.
I mean, I do the dishes because I love to, I know that you don't like to do them, and I don't mind doing them. And it's a way that I can, on a daily basis, show up for you and just help our family. And it's like a little thing to just do the dishes, right?
Yeah.
But it also has this much bigger meaning, right? Because it
Mm.
shows that I care for you, it shows
Hmm.
respect for you, it shows respect
Mm.
for our things. And it's just that mutual aid, right?
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
because you most likely you probably made breakfast or maybe you cooked dinner. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
we share cooking,
It's called
but
kitchen Marxism. One does the cooking and one does the dishes.
that's true. But
Yep.
I mean, even sometimes when I cook, I will just do the dishes too because I don't mind, and
Right.
so and that reciprocity, I know that when you say that you will do something, I trust it. I
Yeah.
trust it deeply. And I
Right.
still sometimes struggle. I'm still like, are you sure? Is
Yeah.
it is it okay? Is it okay? Are you sure that you don't mind moving to Canada for my grad?
Right.
you know, and
Yeah.
and I'm learning that yes,
Yeah.
it's deeply okay. It's
Yeah.
deeply okay.
Yeah.
And you don't say what you don't mean.
Which is like such a huge thing. And that's the trusting each other's autonomy part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we are actually in radical, meaning from the roots, radical, truthful, deep, profound honesty,
Yeah.
and therefore in honest relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't say yes if I don't mean it. Because I love you so much and I refuse to ever resent you. I
Mm-hmm.
refuse. I decline. Thanks for the offer. Not interested. Not available.
And
Right?
I and
No.
I and I appreciate that because it's that resentment that's going to start building. It starts eroding trust, and
Yep.
it's just going to, you know, blow up.
It is the quickest way to destroy a relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. It's insidious, the resentment, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think that brings us back to trust, right? So I trust that if I share something honestly with you and you're upset, I'm not going to then shoot the second arrow. And if you're like, what's that? It's like episode 6 or 10 or something. It's from about 400 years ago. It's a Buddhist concept, so it still holds. I'm not going to shoot the second or the third arrow. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to beat me up. I'm not going to be like, why was I honest? Right. I'm going to take care of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm going to trust you to have your feelings in a kind way.
Yeah. I think that that's probably one of the most incredible things in our relationship is having the room for our feelings,
Yeah.
but knowing that each of us will take care of our feelings in a kind way.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I get upset, I go for a walk. I
Yeah.
go sit on my cushion, my meditation
Yes.
cushion. I breathe. If I get activated in some way, maybe I go exercise or do some qigong or something like that, just to move that energy through me. I know that we'll take care of ourselves so that when we do have to have a, challenging conversation or we just need to just have some real talk, that we'll be regulated or that I'll be regulated, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully you will be too.
Right.
And that we'll meet each other on an even ground.
And I think there's something really important too about knowing that the other one's going to show up in loving kindness because we both do a loving kindness practice.
Mm.
When one of us, when the teeter totters, like when somebody's slammed to the ground, right?
Yeah.
I think it's really, really powerful for us both to practice regulating our nervous systems on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like, if you're really upset, for example, or me, right? But like, I'll just speak for myself and what I do. I can scan my body, check in with my nervous system. And if I have the capacity to regulate myself or the space to, like, if my core self is okay and my inner children are chill, then like I can, let me see how to phrase this. Where I want to go is like, I can take care of you without leaving me.
Yeah, and I mean, I've experienced it, right? You know, I've gotten in the last year, like I've gotten some upsetting news or something happened, and you know, I'm really emotional. I'm really upset. I'm really sad, and you know, you have been my rock in so many ways and helped me to sort of come back to my ground and come back to my center without losing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you're not getting swept up in my drama or swept up in whatever is happening, and you're really just able to be there with me in kindness, in loving kindness and compassion, so that I'm able to work through the difficult emotions that I'm having. And it's been
Yeah.
such a beautiful gift. And you know, I feel, you know, you can speak for this, but I feel like I've been there for you as
Of
well.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't stick around if it was a one-way street. Like, I've been there, done that, like not at all interested in just being other people's rock, right? It's the reciprocity.
Yeah.
That's the mutuosity.
The
That's the word I
mutuosity,
meant
the
to use.
mutuosity.
Excuse me, but that is the word that, that's at the core of it all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, mutuality and reciprocity.
Yeah.
That's so, like in Buddhism, we often talk about how, you know, compassion and wisdom are the two wings of the bird, and with them together you
Mm.
fly, right? So let's say for
Mm.
interdependence, the two wings of the bird, we have mutuality and we have reciprocity, and together we have mutuality, but we have interdependence, and that's how we can
Yeah.
fly, you
That's
know?
so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the rock of your love allows me to soar
Mm,
and be the fullest
mm.
expression of myself, right?
Right. I mean, this is how I'm able to fulfill my dream and become a therapist and go to Toronto, because I have the rock of you to
Yeah.
to to kind of leap off of into this new venture.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
never had this before.
Right. I mean, we've both done a ton of
Oh my
work
God.
to leave old patterns behind,
Yeah.
right? Patterns of drama, patterns of caretaking and saving and putting up with crap and settling and like
Yeah.
all
Bad
the
bad
junk.
habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people who aren't good for us,
Yeah. Yeah. And being able to
right?
see that. I mean, I think for me it was, you know, for so long I wasn't able to see that I wasn't with people that weren't good for me, right?
Yeah.
Like I settled so
Right.
hard. I didn't know that I was worthy, or that I deserved better,
Right.
you know.
And I didn't realize there was this underlying tape in my body that said, if I started something, well, my dad said it all the time. If you start it, you got to finish it. Finish what you start. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like in a pretty lousy relationship for a very long time and felt stuck in it.
Mm.
It's so interesting, right? How we both had such similar
Oh,
experiences in these long term
yeah.
relationships, but like with a different story around it. Like if
Hmm.
you put the facts side by each in like a soap opera, they were very similar,
Right.
but the way both of our brains interpreted it were so wildly different in such interesting ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the different manifestations of codependency.
Totally, right?
Right. And you know that gets impacted by your family of origin, your birth order, your
Yeah.
gender representation, you know, sexuality, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
What advice would you have, my darling angel, therapist to be, for folks who are like, wait, I don't have any of that mutuosity in my life and I want it? Like I'm in
Mm.
neck deep in all the like codependent mindset that you described at the beginning of the show. What are some of the things? And they don't have to be like in order of operation, but I mean, maybe you could talk about what helped you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll be really honest, dropping some bad addictive habits. So I was a pretty heavy drinker a while ago, and the first thing I did was sober up.
Yep.
And that having clarity, like literally physical clarity,
Yeah.
was like a huge first step for me. So
Yeah.
sobering up was really huge. And then the next one was getting quiet. Getting
Yeah.
quiet and just starting meditation, starting prayer, touching, returning to my sense, my like spiritual sense of being, returning to some creativity, returning to some creative outlets. So for me, music playing was a big thing. Music, especially for me, is a very mindful activity where it brings the presence through action, right? So we have to play notes, with others. I play in a brass band, and I play trumpet in a brass band. And for me, it's like it's this beautiful presence with others where you're making art, right? Meditation, I think for me, was perhaps the most important aspect of finding myself again.
Right.
Because I got quiet and I got centered. And, when you sit in meditation, and I'm sure you've probably talked about this analogy on your podcast before, but, it's, we're living our lives all the time and everything's mixed up. And they just, you can describe it as like a snow globe, right? And, all the little snow in the snow globe. But when you sit in meditation and you just start to quiet your mind, and that snow starts to settle, and then you start to see the clarity of who you are, what you are, and you start to hear that voice again. You start to reconnect with your knowing. You start to reconnect with your insight, your boundaries, your wants, your needs, your desires, and you get to start to make decisions that move you in that direction.
Mm.
So you can start making decisions, kind of going where the water's warm, right? Things that where it feels good, where does it feel good? And knowing what's good for you.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Meditation has changed my life.
Yeah.
It's it and then follow, if you have a spiritual path, getting on that path and finding community
Yeah.
is really helpful. Yeah, and then I mean it's really understanding, and this is, I'm going to sound really Buddhist, but like in getting quiet, you can start to understand the causes and conditions of your suffering, right? Your relative suffering, because the relative suffering are the things that you can actually change.
Right.
So when you start to have the insight into the causes and conditions of your suffering, you can start to take action and make decisions to remove those causes and conditions
Yeah,
and
you
and relieve the suffering. Yeah.
right. So we were talking earlier today, and you were talking about this framework about causes and conditions and relative suffering within the framework of talking about victim mentality, which
Mm.
two feminists here, very different from victimhood. Don't come
Hmm.
at us. But victim mentality, staying stuck in the story that everyone's against you. Would you talk about that for just a moment through your Buddhist lens, if you'd be so kind, my darling?
Absolutely, my love. Yeah, I mean, we reinforce those narratives, those stories in us by perpetually watering them, by
Mm.
holding on to them. So if we have this seed of the world's against us, or everything's wrong, or this person did this to me, how dare they,
Mm.
or you're holding on to this hurt
Yeah.
that
Or a diagnosis,
or a diagnosis, or some
right?
you're holding on to something, you're constantly reinforcing that thinking.
Right.
There's also, there's the analogy of like, which wolf do you feed,
Right.
right? Do you
Yeah.
feed the angry wolf or do you feed the peaceful wolf, right?
Right.
Like that's a famous Pema Chodron
Right.
analogy. But I go with a Thich Nhat Hanh analogy of like, which seeds do you choose to water? Because as you water those seeds, that's what's going to grow. So if you're watering those seeds of perpetual victimhood, then you're going to be stuck in that thinking. But
Right.
if you're watering the seeds of self-compassion, if you're watering the seeds of positivity, and you're watering the seeds of mindfulness and presence, and you know the things that bring you joy, those are
Right.
the things that are going to flourish.
Yeah, for sure. for
Yeah. I mean,
sure.
and not to say that you can just water the right seeds and it's going to grow, right? Like there
Oh,
are
that it's not like snap your fingers. No,
right, right.
neuroplasticity is it's time at task, but I also think you're making a great point that like the neuroplasticity of continuing to say this lousy thing that happened is my identity, is me. It is the core of who I am, right? That happens all too often. And I think we, depending on our history, of course, but we can gain some sort of comfort in that, in claiming that victimhood status, because it it explains our experience. It lets us off the hook in a way. I mean, there's a complexity to it, and I think I might make myself pause because this is like a whole other show.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it is really part and parcel of the conversation about codependent thinking, because so much of it is thinking the world is against you, largely often because at some point it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're unable to pull ourselves out of the morass of emotional outsourcing because we continue to think we're in it, whether we are or not. And so we put ourselves in that subjugate role. We're like,
Right.
everyone's coming at me. Everyone. I
Mm-hmm.
am right. I am the one being put upon. I am the doormat of the universe. So then how are you going to possibly feel? And like, how are you going to show up in your relationships?
Right. And
Right.
how are you gonna get out, right? If you're constantly
Yeah.
there.
And that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
So
mm.
I love that your answer to how do we start to move from codependent experience, from emotional outsourcing to interdependence, starts with getting quiet, with meditation, with watering self compassion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Meditation has always been a part of my work and my journey and what's been helpful. And when like something intense has happened in our collective life, or like we've gone through something, you go sit and like silently meditate, like with your eyes open, looking at everything and nothing in the entire galaxy and the universe, but also like nothing, and be like in the perennial silence of cosmic activity. And I go put like my big sound canceling headphones on and music and dance, right? Like I
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
like for this animal to regulate, it's movement based, right? Like that's how like it is
Mhm.
somatic, but we're both doing somatic practice. Meditation is somatic practice. It's bringing your attention, your care, your love back to the soma, the
Oh
body,
yeah,
the
it might
breath.
look like I'm not doing anything, but
You're doing
I'm doing
everything.
everything.
But it's just wicked funny that you're like, I'm going to
Yeah.
sit quietly. And I'm like, put the music
I mean, I
on.
think that's a really good point because some folks meditation is not there,
Not
it's
for
not the
everyone.
end, it's not for everyone.
There's a whole show about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah.
It's not for everyone. You got to find the thing that's for you.
Well, and what pulled you out of it, my love?
Oh, yeah. Somatics. Like coming back to the body, right? Like at
Yeah.
Oberlin in the 90s, I studied somatic movement and contact improv and like all these pathways of embodiment that the ebbs and flow of life, right? Like by the time I was in that lousy marriage, I was like just so profoundly disconnected from myself, right? I
Mm.
had been like living in functional freeze for so long at that point, like chasing all the things one chases, and like in Western medicine, which was so not a good fit for my spirit and my soul
Mm.
and my person, and like all the meow, 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 that it really was working with somatic therapists and so like SEPs, somatic experiencing practitioners like myself,
Mm.
come back to the body.
Yeah.
Like that's what saved me, was coming back to a truly embodied sense of self that allowed me to say like, oh, I'm not putting up with this anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting coming back to the body. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what meditation did for me,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
whatever it takes to get back to the body. I also
Yeah.
hiked like a ton of mountains.
Yeah.
Like I did, yeah, I
Right.
hiked a lot of mountains.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had movement and stillness,
Yeah.
just in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
So whatever it takes, y'all, just get in that body and maybe sit on a cushion, dance, hike a mountain,
Yeah.
get in touch with yourself.
Yeah. And sorry, just about getting back to our roots. Aren't you supposed to say yins?
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Shoot. Do you want to we're not going to re-record it, but do you want to readdress the good people and show your Pittsburgh pride?
Yins don't know.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Wait, what's that thing that protects you from the rain?
A bumper shoot. And I only wash my clothes on Mondays.
Wow. Pittsburgh. Steelers
yeah, it's up
in
here.
The house. A beer?
No, up there. Up there we can have a beer with the Stillers. Wow. Downtown. Oh my gosh, I'm bright red. But yeah.
Good times. Good times. You
know
it's
what interesting. They say? I think I got in the habit of saying y'all because it's more inclusive, but it's also just I think more people know it. Yins is so
it's niche.
it's
niche. It's niche. People say what?
Yeah,
when I say bubbler. A bubbler. Oh, that's where you drink water from. When you use at school, we say use. When uses at school, you drink water from a bubbler.
Okay, how about that kind of sandwich that has different kinds of salamis and
a sub?
Oh, it's not a hoagie.
No, what? Get out of here! Get out of here with a hoagie. No, where did they say hoagie?
Right here,
very Philly.
Right here in Western PA.
Okay,
we got our hoagies.
A sub. And then a milkshake, of course, is a cabinet.
Of course,
obviously. Oh, little roadie. Oh, what are you gonna do? I mean, I think Pittsburgh plus Rhode Island is a match made in heaven.
Oh, I agree.
Okay, great. Thank you for coming on my show and being the true love of my life.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for being the true love of my life.
I love when you blush. It is so cute. You little cute. All right. Well, good people, if you like having Billie on the show, let me know, and we'll keep bringing her back because she's pretty rad.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, my sweet. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been quite the pleasure. And if you're enjoying the show, if you think this is fun, if you are liking it, please head on over to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your shows from. Make sure that you are following the show. That way it downloads to your phone automatically every week. You don't have to think about it or do anything. I am all about task reduction. So if there's anything I can automate, go for it. And please give us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps for other people to find the show when they search for the word codependency or people pleasing. The more ratings and reviews we have, the more likely the show is to come up. And my only goal in doing the show is to spread. I have been so privileged and so lucky to have so much education and to get to know all this cool psychology stuff. So I really want to share it. So help me in that mission. I appreciate you. Beautiful. All right, my darlings, let's do what we do. Gentle hand on your heart should you feel so moved. And remember, you are safe. You are held. You are loved. And when one of us heals, we help heal the world. Be well, my beauty. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Feminist Wellness. If you want to learn more all about somatics, what the heck that word means and why it matters for your life, head on over to victoriaalbina.com/somatics webinar for a free webinar all about it. Have a beautiful day, my darling, and I'll see you next week. Ciao.